But the street was empty, sprinkled with cherry blossoms and remnants of missiles.
Я дивись з твого вікна, я вічний скрип твоїх дверей, знаю лише я одна, кожного своя ціна. Welcome to Ukraine Bank.
Let's check in with Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine. Joe, it's a good afternoon, I hope, where you are. And I was thinking of you yesterday, and I don't remember where I read this, but we've been playing a lot of music. You've supplied us with a lot of music from Ukraine. And somebody said history is written by the winners, but the music is written by the ones who suffer. And there's certainly a lot of suffering going on where you are. How are things today?
Wow, those are powerful words, Bob. Good afternoon from Lviv. I was talking with some friends about this similar topic, and someone said that, in good times, you listen to the melodies, but in the difficult times, you listen to the words, because the words are written often from a place of pain. And so I think that's certainly the experience of many people going through the war. You go back and listen to old songs, and you realize their meaning maybe for the first time. And, as we talked about last week, there were, several musicians, many musicians signed up to fight. Many artists signed up to fight in the very beginning. They were not conscripted. They went to face the invading Russians. And, why is it these people who were artists, they were never soldiers, why do they go to fight? And I think it's because they really know what's at stake. They know what freedom is. And I went to an exhibit a few days ago here in Lviv of a Ukrainian artist from the Soviet times. His name was Neil Kasevich. And he made these small index card-sized prints, these little posters to spread messages of hope and resistance among the people in the 1940s and 50s. You couldn't really sing in the streets patriotic songs. You couldn't even sing religious songs. All these things were banned first by the Nazis and then by the Soviets. And it's a reminder of looking at these little tiny prints that people kept, in their pockets or, in a secret place in their houses. It's a reminder of how for centuries, people have struggled against this Moscow regime, whether it was under the Tsars or this Stalin and now Putin. It really is absurd. Why can't people just be free? They've been actually, this is what they want. This is what they've wanted for centuries. In Lviv, I know there's a great couple named Alec and Natalka, and they were leaders of the hippie movement in the 1970s. And here the hippies were hated, of course, by the KGB. They were the free people who could not be controlled. They had a place called the Hippie Garden. It was in the ruins of a church because the churches were closed. And that's where they sort of lived in this little garden, and they kept alive the culture of conversation and art and creativity in a very dark time in Lviv. And then as a tribute, and so these people, as I see them in Lviv, especially Alec, he's always telling me that history of how, and these are peaceful people. But they believe that they have to fight for freedom because they know, if you want to be a creative person, you cannot exist in a totalitarian regime. And there was a young Ukrainian who was about to open a restaurant as a tribute to these hippies in the 1970s. And it was going to be called the Republic of the Hippie Garden. And this young Ukrainian, he was a veteran of the French Foreign Legion. And as he was in the process of making this restaurant, he was killed in the fighting in Bakhmut just a few weeks ago. But what I hear is that his friends are carrying that on. And you do see, though, that this is, the whole society it comes together, but I think in many ways led by the creative people. They're the ones that push for the idea of freedom. And I just watched a video made by another Ukrainian artist. He goes by the name Ne Ivan, and I posted it at UkrainianFreedomNews.com. He took it's difficult to watch. It's only 2 minutes, but there's a narration of an 18-year-old Ukrainian in Donbass, and he tells the story of what happened a year ago when the Russians came into his town. And Ne Ivan, the artist, he has, much like that artist from Soviet times, he made little prints in red, black, and white to illustrate the story. And the story is called Slava, I'm Fine. And you hear the voice of the narrator, and he says, We had just renovated our house before February 24th, and they were awakened that night by aircraft. They were hiding in the basement without light, water, and heat. The village was turned into ashes. And then he said a few days later, he and his mother were going to get food, and shells and missiles were falling all around them. And then his mother fell next to him. And then he says, stunned, almost blind, I crawled up to her. And he could, and I won't go into all the details, but he could see that she was not going to survive. And she says, Slava, that's his name. Slava, I'm fine. And then he begs for help. And he says the street was sprinkled with cherry blossoms and remnants of missiles, but there was no one around. Finally, some medics showed up and some soldiers, and they stayed with him as she died on the street. And then he had to return to the basement. And he says, little Olivia, Dima, Nicola, Danilo, his brothers and sisters. The children were waiting for their mother. Instead, they saw me with hands red with her blood. And if you so it's awful to watch, but it shows, and this is, it's such a beautiful production, this little video, and it, through art shows the world how awful this is.
And when you say cherry blossoms and remnants of missiles, that kind of sums up a lot of the pictures you've painted for us of a tale of, not of two cities, but a tale of one city with two different streams going on. Can we see that video online now, Joseph?
Yeah, if you go to UkrainianFreedomNews.com and you click on the left-hand side on our Telegram feed, it says Slava, I'm fine. And you can watch the video, and it's painful but very beautiful to see. And as I think about it, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Joseph.
Well, I just received some other videos from one of our reporters, a Polish reporter, and he is in near Bakhmut now. And each of these videos is a little film. It's just showing the reality there. You can see the flowers surrounding craters of missiles. You hear the sounds of spring mixed with the sounds of the bombs. There's, you hear a missile coming down, and then you hear the birds chirping, and it's and as you see, these cities are just being leveled day by day, even as life is trying to, the life of spring is trying to come back and exist through this absolute hell that is raining down every single day.
There is some good news today. Ukraine's military claiming it is achieving impressive results against Russian forces in Kherson. So that's some good news today, isn't it?
Absolutely. And now I think it's been confirmed that Ukrainians now hold some territory of Kherson across the Dnipro River. For months, they were only on the right bank, and now they've moved to the left bank. And it's, very marshy area, very difficult operations. But it's a great sign of success. And then today there was a story in the Washington Post saying that on February 24th, 2023, the one-year anniversary of Russia's big invasion, Ukraine had planned to send some attacks to Moscow, maybe some drone attacks. Nothing huge, but just to send a signal of strength. And that United States intelligence services and the United States government discouraged Ukraine from doing that. And I think as we move toward whatever's going to be happening here, I think we have to be confronted with this uncomfortable question. If Ukrainians could agree to live in some kind of tyranny, if they wanted to go back to Soviet times, or then everything could be peaceful, right? Everything would be, outwardly, right? The world wouldn't have to care and think about this. But it is Ukrainians' absolute insistence on being free that is challenging the world. Do we really believe in freedom? Do we actually believe in a real victory? Or are we afraid of this idea? And this is the challenging question. It's not challenging for Ukrainians. I mean, they're willing to face everything to be free. But it's a question I think that Ukrainians pose to the world right now.
Yes, they do. Joseph, thank you. And let's pray for peace, as we always do. We'll talk tomorrow.
Thank you, Bob. Till tomorrow.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Что он сказал?
Well, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?
Ебать.
Седьмой.